In today's lesson, we are going to talk about how to get clarity and how to reach your goals. Not goals. Goals. I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men and women who died, who gave that right to me. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great day. Happy Memorial Day to anyone in the U.S. who is listening to this on the day that it is published. While our country is far from perfect, I am grateful for the freedoms that we do have and for those who have laid down their life for those freedoms. So my reverence goes out to them and all the families who have lost loved ones in defense for our freedom or your country's freedom, regardless of what part of the world you live in. Speaking of freedom, today we're going to talk about financial freedom and life freedom. To give a little bit of context for today's episode, for those of you who have been following the podcast, know that we are moving. We're getting ready to sell our house. We're going to be taking pictures in like a week and then listing our house in a couple weeks. And it's been pretty busy around here. So we're trying to get as many people as we can over here to help paint and carpet and fix things and do things and get ready for pictures and listing in this house. So as you know, Tara's brother, Tyson, my brother-in-law, who we interviewed on the last podcast, has been staying with us in our guest house, and he's been really helping us get things ready. And just a few days ago, we said to him, like, hey, Tyson, we need more help. And he's like, okay, I know some people. So he's been bringing over his good friend, Will, who is also a recovering alcoholic drug addict. And he's been helping us out for the last few days. So that's been awesome. Now, I've only talked to Will for a brief second one time, and yesterday he came up to me right before he was leaving and just said, hey, I just want to thank you for the podcast. It's really been helping me out. And so then I was talking to Tyson a little bit more about his situation after Will left, and I essentially told Tyson, I said, hey, what's Will's situation? Give me a little more information. And after Tyson sharing with me his situation, which is kind of similar to Tyson's, has a lot of similarities, I said, hey, tell him if he listens to all the podcasts that I'll mentor him if he wants. But then that kind of got me thinking and talking to Tyson. I was like, basically, like, I can't really do anything for anyone. It has to come from within, something that they want to do and are willing to take the steps towards doing. It kind of reminded me of how Tyson's always talking about the people who he sponsors and who sponsor him. You reach out to them, but ultimately they have to be the ones who want to make that change. Like, I can't make money for anyone. And I can, but that's enabling. It's not going to really help anyone. But I'm happy to give some guidance, be a soundboard, kind of say, hey, what do you think about this? Maybe try this, check this out. But ultimately, it has to come from them. So last night, as I was laying there in bed and knowing that I needed to record a podcast today because we're going to be publishing it on Monday, and of course, today's Saturday, and I typically wait till the last minute. Plus, I like to do things more in the moment, I don't like to put things out that are months old. So I had all these ideas of different things that I could talk about on the podcast today, but none of them were really pulling at my heart. And I was thinking, like, what is on my mind right now? Will is on my mind. The people who represent Will are on my mind. Those of you who are struggling in life, but there's something more, and you're just not totally sure how to get there, or you just need someone telling you that you can get there and maybe giving you a little bit of groundwork or things to think about. As I thought of those things, I was trying to think of something that sounded really cool and was like, whoa. And the truth is, it's really not that difficult. Like, the steps that I came up with are actually quite simple. And I think that might be part of the problem. We're always looking for that magic, secret, crazy out there thing, but it doesn't have to be that crazy out there. The truth is, most of the people that I know that are incredibly successful are very normal people doing normal but impactful things. We typically hear about the Elon Musks or the Jeff Bezoses and these people who are doing these big, insane, crazy things. The truth is, even those guys started somewhere simple-ish, right? And it led to that. But I think sometimes that can be overwhelming and we could feel like, oh, I'm not like them. But the truth is, you don't have to be like them. It can be very simple. Okay, but I digress. So what I'm going to do for today's podcast is essentially I started thinking about what are the things that I would tell Will. And I thought, if I'm working through these things, why not just record an episode on the podcast today and share it with everyone? Because while these things might seem simple in my mind and things that I'm doing on a regular basis, I'm realizing more and more with all the people that have been put in my path recently that to some people this may not seem basic or obvious, or they just need someone to say, hey, do this. And maybe then it will seem basic and obvious and they're like, oh, I should do that. So that's what we're going to do today. I am basically going to tell Will, aka whoever is listening to this podcast right now, Will, Wilma, whoever you are, insert your name there. And of course, if your situation is different than Will's, which I know a lot of people's are, it's like adapt it to what works for you. So now these will be Will's first steps. And then as he does these things, as he proves and shows that he's willing to put in the work and put in the effort, then we can continue with the next steps. And I'll do the same thing for you. If anyone out there completes these things that I am going to have Will do, his quote unquote homework, then feel free to email it to me, justin@millionaireuniversity.com. I'll check it out, give you any feedback I have, and you can kind of go along this journey with Will and Tyson and whoever else we bring on as well. Cool? Cool. So as I was writing these notes and these steps this morning, I was trying to come up with an acronym and I wasn't totally figuring it out. But as I was writing these steps, I was like, these kind of fit into two different categories. The first one is clarity. And the second one is kind of like an accountability and action category. And so I was like, oh, CA, like for California, which is where we live, where Will lives, where Tyson lives. And I thought, okay, so California, like they're trying to accomplish their dreams. To kind of help remember this formula or these steps, I was like, okay, California dream. Right now, some people are not living the California dream. But through these steps, once they do these steps, they can live the California dream. Now, I know there's lots of different thoughts on California. There's things people love about California, things people hate. That's not the point. It's just California dream. Right now, Will, Tyson's life, different people's lives, my life, like we're all striving for that dream. We're striving for the better thing. So clarity, accountability, and action, California dream. And then we'll go through some of these steps. Cool? Cool. All right, Will, here we go. I'm going to talk to you because it'll help me focus on what I'm doing and who I'm talking to. So this is what I want you to do, Will. And more I'm realizing this is something that most people don't do. So it might seem basic, but it's really important. You need to get clarity. You need to get clear on what you want. Just like the Cheshire Cat said, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which road you take. So before we figure out which road you're taking, you got to figure out what you want out of life. Like, where do you want to go? So Will, what we're going to do is I'm going to assume that you have a computer. If you don't, use a piece of paper and get out like a Word document. For me, I would go into my Google Drive. I don't even know, what do they call it? Okay, yeah, I think it's just a Google document. But regardless of how you do this, it doesn't matter. It could be on paper. It could be written on anything. The first thing I want you to do is start writing out your ideal life. What does that look like? Now, don't overthink this. Keep it super simple. It's kind of like what we did with Tyson in the last episode. You don't need to get out poster board and start cutting up magazines and putting yachts and fancy cars on there. Just what does Will's ideal life look like, let's say 1 year from now? And once again, we're not talking about perfect. This is constantly going to be evolving and changing. Once you get to a different place in life, then you're going to try to figure out, what do I want now out of life? I know for Tyson, several months ago, his ideal life was to not be in jail and not be in a bad relationship and to be sober and to be able to have enough money for basic needs, food and shelter. Now his ideal life is, how do I spend some time with my kids? How do I eventually get a place of my own? How do I start to pay off some of these debts? How do I take care of my kids? How do I pay child support? How do I get a vehicle? Other people, depending on your situation, it might be, how do I go on a trip? How do I give back to people? Different things like that. But I think looking a year out is good, because let's walk before we run. Let's not try to solve world hunger before we figure out how to take care of ourselves and those within our circle of influence, kids, family, etc. So under clarity, that's number one. Write down your ideal life and just take a few minutes on this. Literally don't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. You can keep this document, keep using it, keep adjusting it, keep adapting it. It's an ongoing thing. Once again, we're not writing a 42-page business plan here. Just jot down a few bullet points, a few notes, a few thoughts of what your ideal life looks like. Okay, step number 2. Now that you've written down your ideal life, you're going to come up with a money number that will help support that ideal life. Super simple. How much money do you need to make each month or each year to make that life a reality? Once again, don't overcomplicate this. We're not going to make this super woo-woo, the secret, this thing. It's like, no, it's very practical. Like, just keep it simple. Don't forget to include things like paying off additional debts you might have. Be sure to include a certain amount for savings. And then when you calculate it, remember that you have to pay taxes on money that you make on earned income. So for example, if the number you come up with is $15,000 a month to get the things you want in life and have a little extra for savings, you're going to need to make $20,000 a month so you can pay Uncle Sam, so you can end up with your 15 at the end of the day. Step number 3 is vehicle. Now, we're not talking about a literal car here. We're talking about what is the vehicle that you will use to help you reach this number goal that will help you reach your ideal life, aka your dreams, your goals. So here you're going to want to think of a few things. What are the things that you are good at? What are the things that you are passionate about? And then time dependency. So for you, Will, the same with Tyson, like your guys' ideal life right now is more based on your personal situation and your family and how can you pay off some debts and stay sober. And like, that's the miracle right there. That's the dream, right? As to where Elon Musk is trying to create a multiplanetary species, right? And I'm trying to create eventually like a school that people can go to that replaces college but teaches them how to start and grow a business and create wealth. So those are 3 different examples of what people's ideal life might look like or what they're trying to accomplish or the vehicle that they might use to get there. But the reason I bring this up is like what I'm currently doing, what Tara and I are doing, that's going to take several years probably to make any money. Now, there will absolutely be some money made along the way to help support the efforts that we're going to continue to do to get the word out there and to eventually make the connections that we need and grow this thing that we want to someday create. So in a way, it's kind of like a 3-year plan. And the end goal isn't even necessary to make a ton of money. I think the result will be there will be a ton of money that could be made based on solving a big problem like this. But I just bring this up because for anyone listening, it's really important to know your situation. Like, Will, I don't totally know your situation, so I'm going to use Tyson's. Like, Tyson's dream right now and goal is to be able to see his kids on a regular basis and eventually have a place where they can come and visit him. And he can have a vehicle where he can pick them up and spend time with them. And he can go to his meetings and pick people up who are in recovery and take them to those meetings. Like, that's his dream. That's his ideal life right now. So even though Tyson is passionate about art and maybe someday he'll figure out how to make money that way, or he'll just make money and then he can do art, his number one goal and your number one goal, Will, is to find a vehicle that will help you make money or help you make more money to reach the number that you need to reach, like starting tomorrow. The truth is there are some vehicles or businesses or whatever you want to call it that take a lot of time to make that money and there's a lot of risk. It's not for sure if it's going to happen. And then there are vehicles where you literally tomorrow or today can start making money. You can start making a lot more money than you currently are in whatever it is that you're doing. And then over time, with a little bit of leverage and systems and more knowledge in that area, you can scale that. So for you, Will, I want you to think of something that you are familiar with. Maybe you're kind of passionate about it. Maybe you're not totally, but you're passionate enough about your why, your goals, the reason why you want it to where you don't, quite frankly, it doesn't totally matter. In the beginning of my career, I didn't care what I did. Like I was selling satellite dish TV door to door. It's not like I'm changing the world by selling TV, but I was passionate about being able to take care of my family and put food on the table. And that was a much faster vehicle than going out and creating a platform to eventually someday start a school to revolutionize and change the college industry as we know it. Make sense? Okay, cool. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do some of these other crazy things someday, but going back to Maslow's, I think I'm saying that right, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you've got to take care of yourself and your inner circle before you can really expand that. And don't get me wrong, you will be helping a lot of people with whatever it is that you do. Just keep that in mind. Like, what is something that I can start making money doing like tomorrow that I'm also either interested and passionate about and or know a lot about or know something about that I can start quickly and don't have to really develop this insane, amazing skill that might take several months to learn or develop. Or I don't have to create this platform that might take a year or two to create and may not work out the exact way I planned, right? So like for Tyson, flipping couches, he's already done it before. He knows how to do it. Like this isn't rocket science, like go flip couches. He has an idea of what's possible. And once again, it's for Tyson. Maybe you do something similar. There's a lot of different things that you can buy and sell or different things like that. So for step number 3, write down whatever you think is something that you could do starting tomorrow to help you make more money. Now, if you're not sure what that is, then cool. That brings you to your next to-do. All a business really is a list of to-dos. So the to-dos are you're either figuring out what the next thing is to do, which is a to-do in and of itself, right? Or you're doing the thing that you figured out. We live in the information age. There's a ton of people out there making a ton of money, and so many of them literally will tell you exactly what to do, how to do it bit by bit. So literally just Google like how to make money, and don't do any weird scammy things. Don't get into that. Just find out what is something that is simple, that makes sense. In the past, we've talked about you could do car detailing, you could power wash houses, you could have a cleaning business, you could have a landscape business. There's all kinds of things that you can do. Okay, step number 4 under gaining clarity is write down your plan. And the way you come up with your plan, once again, we're not talking about a 42-page business plan. Like this should not be any longer than maybe half a page. All you do is you take numbers 1, 2, and 3, ideal life, your money number, and the vehicle, and you kind of reverse engineer that, put that together, reverse engineer that, and you write down your plan. Basically what you are going to do and how you are going to do it. And when you are going to do it. So what, how, and when. And then you make sure that as you are doing this plan, it does not interfere with what you came up with for your ideal life. And ideal life can vary. Maybe you have an ideal life that may not be happening for the next, 6 to 12 months as you are working towards that. Like you got to make sacrifices. But what you definitely want to do is you want to write down your non-negotiables. So basically, if one of your ideal life items is to be able to spend more time with your kids, and you create a plan that includes you working 80 hours a week, being gone all the time, never being able to see your kids, like the reason why you're doing the thing you're doing, then don't do that. You don't have to, like life design, like you can create your ideal life. Now, you got to be somewhat realistic. If your ideal life is working like 2 hours a week and you want to have a jumbo jet and you want to travel the world and you want to do all these things and you don't really want to do anything to get there, okay, like you got to be realistic. But it's just important that you understand the reason why you're doing the things that you're doing in the first place so that you don't set out to have this amazing life and then years and years pass and you realize that you missed out on the things that really matter the most to you. Okay, hope that makes sense. So then step number 5 is you start writing out your to-do list. I remember the very first real estate investing seminar that Tara and I went to. We went and we were flooded with all these ideas, and we were told the step-by-step of all the things that we could do to be successful in our business. And we came home, we were just overwhelmed. We're like, okay, we need to write down, like, what does this mean for us? What's the plan for us? So we wrote down everything. We brainstormed everything on this big, huge piece of paper. Then we circled all the things that we thought were top priorities, and we went through and numbered those things. And that's where we started. We started with number 1, then number 2, then number 3. So that's what you want to do. Come up with your to-do list. Now, everything is adjustable, is adaptable. You're going to pivot. You're going to change. Your to-do list will change. Your ideal life will change. Your money number will change. Your plan and vehicle will change. It's all good. There is no failure. Failure is a myth. It is not real. You're never failing. You're always only taking action and you're getting feedback, the feedback loop. Just keep that going. Hypothesis, test, pivot. Hypothesis, test, pivot. HTP. Never failure. Data is so valuable. All you're doing by taking action is you're getting data. That worked the way I planned on it to work. It worked better. It didn't work as good. Okay, I'm going to adapt and change to improve the result that I'm looking for. Okay, I started a business. I started doing it this way. I'm not really seeing my kids enough. Okay, I need to adapt and adjust this so I can see my kids better. Okay, my health is faltering. How can I adapt and adjust and pivot so that I'm able to be healthy? Never failure, never I'm a loser, I can't do it. No, it's just information. It's like, okay, what am I going to change today? What am I going to change now? What am I going to adapt to here? What can I do to improve this? What's next on my to-do list? Is that the top priority? Okay, let's change it up. I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed. Is it because I'm afraid to do the things that I need to do? Or is it because I've been working a little too hard, a little too much, and I do need a little bit of me time? I need a little moment. Maybe I need to hit the gym, go for a run, go for a walk, take a little break, whatever you got to do. It's never going to be perfect. Don't get frustrated. Don't get down. Just keep chugging along one day at a time, taking breaks as you need them, and keep going. So for the clarity stage, the first 5 steps, like challenge yourself. Try to do this in less than an hour. Try to do it in 30 minutes if you can. Try to do it in 10 minutes if you can. You can always go back and add to it. But if you take too long, then you're going to burn out and you're not going to do the part that matters the most. Action, execution, do it already. Just go. Don't overthink about this. Don't overcomplicate it. You know what you need to do. Now it's time to just do it. Okay, so back to you, Will. Basically, what I want you to do is I want you to go through this 5-step process or practice, whatever you want to call it. Go through these 5 steps. I want you to literally write them down, and I want you to send them to me. What's your ideal life look like? What's your money number based on that ideal life, including savings, taxes, etc. And when I say savings, that could be investing, could be all these different things, right? But you don't want to just be living paycheck to paycheck, right? The goal is to get out of the hole and beyond the hole, out of the rat race, right? What's the vehicle that you plan on using, the vehicle that you think you will use? And if you don't know the vehicle, that's fine. Just give me some information on what you think you're good at and then how you're going to figure out the vehicle. What are you going to research? What are you willing to dedicate? Are you going to look it up on Google? Are you going to look up podcasting? There's so many podcasts out there. There's so many YouTube channels out there that will teach you so many different things that you can do. So we just got to pick one of them and focus on that. And we can adjust and pivot as we go, but you don't want to get analysis paralysis. You don't want to think, I could do this or this. It's no, what's the thing you can do now? Go do that. And then you can improve and grow upon that as you go on. So number 4, write down your basic plan. Then number 5, write down your to-do list, the things that you are going to do to execute on this plan. Also, what I want you to include is I want you to tell me when you're going to begin executing on this. I know you currently have a job, you've been helping us do some work. So it's kind of when are you going to start taking action on this? What are your thoughts? Maybe once you've done steps 1 through 5, we'll bring you on and we'll kind of talk about that transition. What does that look like? I know you have a job right now that you currently you're helping other people, but I also know that you want to make more money. You want to do more. So what does that look like? Maybe you start doing these other things. And then once you make X amount of money doing that, you let them know, hey, I got to move on from this. It's been awesome, et cetera, right? But what's the plan? If we have no plan, we have nothing. And the plan can change up, but we've got to know where we're going. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And you might end up on a road that isn't bad, but may not be the road that's going to help you get the things that you want in life. Or in a lot of cases, it might not be so great. So it's important that we have this clarity. Okay, so do that first, get that to me. But then once you have that clarity, this is what we'll do from there. Then it's all about execution, action, and accountability. So we've kind of already covered this. I'm going to go through it quickly. Then you're going to start executing your to-do list. You're going to start executing your plan. Number 2, you're going to adapt based off of the information that you got. You're going to continue that loop. You're going to come up with your new hypothesis. Okay, now I think this. And it's you have the hypothesis of the overall plan, and then there will be lots of little tiny nuanced details within the plan of how to execute that you're going to continue to hypothesize about. Or you're based on the information I have, I think this will work. And then you're going to test that out. You're going to try it. You're going to take action on it. And then you're going to pivot based on the information you have. You just keep that loop going. So I was going to say steps 1 and 2, but we'll call these 6 and 7. But they're the 1 and 2 of the action and accountability phase. The first 2 are based on action, and then the next 2 are based more on accountability and measuring and tracking. And at this point, these aren't in any particular order. So for example, execution, adapt, and then number 3 is I want you to keep a daily, weekly, monthly time log. What are the things that you're doing each day? Number 1, this will help hold you accountable. You'll probably be able to look at that and be oh, this is why this isn't working, or this is why this is working. Or someone like myself will be able to look at that and say, oh, well, you're struggling with this thing you're trying to get to because you're doing this thing instead of this thing. It's kind of like a health coach, how they have you write down the things that you're eating, the exercise you're doing, because by looking at that, they can almost with certainty, 99.99% of the time, be able to tell you, oh, you're doing this wrong, you're off here, or you yourself will know that. But holding yourself accountable and then letting others also help you be accountable is huge. So I guess I kind of said number 3 and 4 together, which technically would be number 8 and 9 of the whole thing, right? So number 3 and 4 of the action and accountability, number 8 and 9 of the overall plan that we're talking about here. So number 3 under the action and accountability is time log. You want to have a time log. You want to keep track of the things that you're doing with your time on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Keep that log, share it with me, and then I'll just check it out from time to time. Or if you're ever struggling, I can look at it. You'll probably know yourself, but I can look at it and say, okay, well, this is what you're doing here. This is what you're doing with your time. Now, at the beginning, you want to be pretty exact with that. And then over time, we can be a little more general. But then if we're ever off track, then we need to go back to keeping really good track of it. And then number 4 under the action and accountability is having an accountability partner, which I'm happy to do for you. You and Tyson can do for each other. Whoever's listening out there, get an accountability partner. Keep your time log, keep track of things, and then let them check it out and be their eyes and ears. For the time being, as we're still growing the platform, I'm happy to look at that as well. And long term, that might be a little harder, but we can figure out how to streamline that process or help you guys out there. But you all have someone out there who can probably take a look at that and say, maybe this is off a little bit. And then number 5 of the action and accountability portion of this is KPIs. Over time, as you get this data, you want to come up with your KPIs, your key performance indicators. What are the 3 to 5 key metrics that you want to track each day, each week, each month? So for example, if you're doing any kind of home service, car detailing, power washing, window washing, landscaping, pool service, how many people do you need to reach out to get a new client? If you know that for every 10 people you ask, you get 1 new client, then that would be your KPI. Then you would know, okay, how many clients do I need to get the number that I need to make? And how many people do I need to reach out to get that many clients? And how many people do I need to reach out to get a client? Then you'll easily be able to reverse engineer the actions you need to take to get the amount of clients that you need to get the results that you want. And then once you nail it, you can scale it. First, you got to nail it. So that's what today is all about. That's what this is all about. But before you can nail it, you got to get clear on what it is that you want out of life, how you're going to get there, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. And then you got to start taking action on that. Then that'll give you feedback. You adjust, you adapt, you track, you measure. Then you have the information that you need. You come up with your KPIs, and you start working those KPIs. Now, we don't have time to go into automation and scaling today, but if you do get those KPIs dialed in, go back to episode number 12, the 10 steps to automate and scale your business, and that will take you the rest of the way. Whoosh. Okay, so just to summarize, this is what I want from you, Will. And anyone else out there who wants to do this as well, send it to me, justin@millionaireuniversity.com. This is what I want you to do. First off, you want to get clarity. Number 1, write down what your ideal life looks like. Number 2, come up with your money number. Number 3, come up with the vehicle that you plan to use. Once again, plan, it can adjust and adapt over time. Number 4, come up with your plan. And Will, in that plan, I want you to include like a timeline. What's your plan for transitioning out of what you're currently doing or to transition into that money number? So for example, I want you to come up with an amount of money that you want to be making each month within, let's say, a year. Okay, so how much are you currently making this month, right now in this month? Well, how much will you make? How much do you want to make next month? How much are you going to make the month after that? Like there's got to be this tier of it continuing to go up and up and up. And how are you going to make that happen? So write that out, and then we can go over any questions you have. When I had employees in the past, I never had them come to me with just straight up questions. Like they need to think through it and then come to me with solutions and answers, and then I can give feedback. But that is so much more powerful and empowering for you if you're coming up with these things on your own versus me just telling you. Number 5, to-do list, and that might kind of work into the plan a little bit, but just based off of the plan that you have, what are the next things that you are going to do and when? Those ones kind of go together. So do that first, get that to me as soon as you can. We'll say by the end of this week, considering this is being published on Monday. Get that to me by the end of this week. Truth is, maybe you can get it to me within a couple days. That would be ideal, because the faster you iterate on this, the faster we can continue to get you moving towards reaching your goals. And then once you've done the clarity exercise, numbers 1 through 5, number 6, you'll start taking action. Number 7, you'll adapt as needed. Number 8, you're going to time log how you're spending your time. Number 9 is having an accountability partner, which will be me for now, and or we'll see how maybe Tyson can fit into that. So for anyone out there, who's your accountability partner? Find an accountability partner. I'm happy to be that for the time being as well. Just send me your stuff. And then number 10, your number 1 goal is to eventually come up with those KPIs, those numbers that you need to reach. You start tracking those. You send those to your accountability partner as well. And from there, we scale, baby. And then you will be living the California dream, or the American dream, or the world dream, or whatever dream it is that you want to live. You're going to live that dream by following these steps. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of today's lesson, today's episode of the Millionaire University podcast. We will be keeping up with Will and Tyson and many others on their journeys here on the Millionaire University podcast. Once again, if you want to join in on the fun, go ahead and send me an email, justin@millionaireuniversity.com. Let me know what you're committing to. You know, the reason why we're able to do more of this mentoring in this kind of way is because of the changes that we've made, because we're going to be focusing more on growing the show and getting sponsors versus doing an actual paid coaching program anytime in the near future. future. So yeah, send me your stuff. I'm happy to talk about it on the show because the goal is to create the best content possible, the best free content. Plus, it's like me seeing guys like Tyson and Will. And I know those guys don't have 50 grand, 100 grand sitting around where they can pay a mentor like this to help them work through these kinds of things. So anyway, I just get a lot of joy and fulfillment out of it. Of course, over time, I know it might be hard to do with everybody, but for right now, get in while the getting's good. Also, if you enjoyed what you heard today on the Millionaire University podcast, the way we are going to be able to continue to deliver high value free content and be able to work with lots of people like Tyson and Will and anyone out there who wants to reach out to us is by you sharing this with someone. That's the best payment you can give us right now. We don't want your money, at least not right now. Maybe at some point we will. But that's the best payment you can do. Leave us a rating and review. Share this with a friend with the technology today. It's super easy just to shoot it to someone, just to text it to someone and let them know, hey, check this out. I thought this is really cool. Let me know what you think. I think it might be what you're looking for or something along those lines. So other than that, hit us up with anything you need, anything we can help you with, any questions you have. Get out there. Have a great week. School's almost out. Maybe for some of you it is. And it's summertime. What are you going to do this summer? Have some fun, but what are you going to do? What business are you going to start? How are you going to grow? How are you going to improve your life? You got this. We're here to help with anything we can. I believe in you. We believe in you. Believe in yourself. And we will talk to you next time on the Millionaire University podcast. Hasta la próxima.